Hello, hello, hello.
And welcome to the Hildebrand Law Firm topic for today.
I'm Kirsten Hildebrand.
And I'm Matt Kaplan.
And today we are going to discuss timing. That is, when is the best time to get an estate plan done? Matt, what do you think?
Before you die.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Get that done before you die.
Okay. So I guess unless you believe in fortune telling, or
ghosts,
or prophecy that's going to tell you exactly when, it's a little bit difficult to tell, isn't it?
It's very difficult to tell. If you have figured it out, please let us know. I think I would like to know. Would you like to know the day that you die?
Well, that's a really good question. One thing I think is interesting is people who are expecting to die. Like my mother.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm telling you, I think that she told us since she was 45 years old that she was going to die. I mean, it was like, well, I could go anytime. Or, well, don't expect me to live any longer than 55. My mother didn't live any older than 57. It was just like kind of this rolling, well, this is probably it. This is the last year I'm going to have a birthday.
Your mom used to say that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
All the time.
My great-grandmother used to say that all the time.
Is that right?
Matthew, say your goodbyes, because this is the last time you'll ever see me. She said that to me at my bar mitzvah, and then she passed away when I was in college.
Right. I mean, yeah, my mother died at a good age of 79. I would say, it's not it's not old, but it's not young either. It's just a full life. So, right, you just can't predict, and it's interesting. They say that it's genetic, but with all of the different advances in science, it is very difficult to know exactly what's going to happen to you.
Yeah, for sure. But to answer this question, when is the best time to get your estate planning done? Right now.
Yes, I think you're right, because if you don't, then what happens? Oh, and we have a really sad story of a client who recently came to us, and they were married, they were together as partners for about 10 years. They got married, and they were only married for a few months, and he went in for well, let me just back up and say they started the process of estate planning, but it sort of fell by the wayside because who really wants to pay the money for that? It's a lot more interesting to say go to New York for the weekend or plan a cruise. And so it sort of, was the thing that they didn't want to spend money on. And he went in for a routine surgery. And that routine surgery ended up with a blood clot going to his brain, and he died suddenly. A very, very sad situation, but also not one that is necessarily unique. We do get these sudden death situations coming through our office multiple times a year. And so it is a sobering reminder that we all have an expiration date, and we just don't know what it is. And as much as we want to believe that we can control it by wearing seatbelts and staying healthy and working on minimizing our risk level, it still can happen at any time.
Right, and so we have no idea. Chances are you are a planner because you search for estate planning videos on YouTube. You stumbled upon us. So if you're a planner, best time to get it done is now. We don't know. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to get in a car accident today. Nobody who ever passes away wakes up and says, today is most likely going to be my last day on earth. It just doesn't happen. We don't know how much time we have. And so getting your stuff done now is really, really, really important. I want to tell you a good story.
Okay.
To go with your bad story. I had a client that actually came in earlier today, and we did a quick amendment for them, but they spent the first half hour telling me how happy they were that they got their estate planning done when they did, because he got in a really bad ski accident in Colorado, needed to be airlifted to a hospital, coded a few times.
Wow.
They didn't know what was going to happen. He had a brain bleed, a traumatic brain injury. They had to cut his skull open.
Oh, boy.
And so my humor said, so when they cut your skull open, did they find nothing? which he appreciated. But
yeah, you have to tell that joke to the right person.
he had all these problems, and the one thing that she kept saying is, "Thank goodness we got our estate planning done because it made everything 10 times easier."
Yeah, it
and
sure did.
we don't hear that as often as I'd like to, but it's really nice that, thank goodness it was worth every penny. And so he didn't know when he was going to have an accident, so he got his estate planning done when he could, when he was ready, and it really came in handy at that moment.
In a weird way, this reminds me of the trip that I was taking this past weekend. We were going from Dallas to another part of Texas, Austin. And have you ever experienced a Texas rainstorm?
No.
They are insane. Like nothing that happens here in Wisconsin. It is literally like a deluge. You cannot see 1 foot in front of you. And so we were just driving straight into the storm that took us a good solid 2/3 of the 3-hour drive was white knuckle driving this thing. And interestingly enough, the drivers in Texas, they really do not care if it's raining like that. So we were in, of course, the slow lane, and we were going carefully down the highway. And meanwhile, there were these, all of a sudden I hear this buzz. It sounds like a motorcycle, but I literally cannot believe that anybody would be riding a motorcycle in this deluge that's coming down. That also includes hail and tons of lightning. And when you know it, they go racing by. I'm sure they were going at least 80 to 90 miles an hour. And all of them, zoom, zoom, zoom. And it was just crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, I hope they have their estate planning done because they're not going to make it. I was looking for the accident that would be in front of us the whole rest of the way we were driving because it just seemed totally nuts. So I guess maybe it's not such a good idea to go motorcycle riding on the interstate during a deluge.
Absolutely.
Or there's a whole host of other things, especially those of you who are high risk out there that like to do things like, I don't know, mountain climbing without the right equipment, or jumping out of airplanes with equipment that may or may not function.
Yeah, eat Taco Bell. There's a lot of scary things, very risky, reckless things we can do in this world.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Anything else you can think of, Matt?
I'd rather not discuss.
Okay, all right.
things I've read.
Right.
But yeah, I think long story short is making sure that you get your stuff done while A, you're in the mood. Being in the mood is a big deal. B, you got to make sure you're ready. I get a lot of clients that come to me, they don't know what this all entails, and then after I tell them what it entails, I don't think I'm ready yet. That's fine. That's totally okay if you're not ready. I just don't want you to wait until it's too late.
Well, and I think there's a point there. This is something that, if you think about it one way, it's very heavy, and it's very emotional, and it can be very difficult. But in another way, it's almost like you need to emotionally disconnect from what it is that you are doing, that is planning for your death, in order to get the job done. So it's not dissimilar. I know this isn't going to be a terrible analogy, but I'm going to say it anyway. Having had 3 children, there is this point where you know that underneath the diaper is just this horrible situation, but if you wait, it's just going to get worse, and so you emotionally disconnect from what it is that you have to do next in order to clean up the baby, and you just get it done and you don't think about it. I think that's actually why I'm able to do estate planning with some joy in a weird way, because it's joyful to be able to have the blessing of being able to say, hey, I want to pass this on to particular people after I no longer need to use it. So in a strange sense, we really own nothing. It's really just a matter of stewarding it and passing it on in a way that is responsible. And in order to do that, I think emotionally disconnecting from what that means is happening to your body and to your soul is important. It's like, this is all business. Just get the business part of this out of the way so that then you can think about what is happening to your body and your soul and your spirit and what's happening with your loved ones and how you can prepare them in the instance of a long illness and what you can do to make life far more beautiful without thinking about all of those logistics.
And actual times in which you should think, okay, maybe now is the time to get my estate planning done. For a lot of people, if you buy a house, I think if you buy a house, you don't have your estate planning done, that is the time to consider it. If you get married or have a child, I think that is the time. If your family grows, that is the time you start to consider it. Also, if you have assets or come into assets, those are just triggering points. If you haven't gotten anything done, those are triggering points that you should think about. It's like, okay, I have this house now. I worked so darn hard for it, especially in this market. It's so hard to get a house. I finally got this house. I want to make sure it's protected. I finally got married. I have this child or whatever. I want to make sure they're protected. So those sorts of things that occur, perfect time to start getting your estate planning.
Excellent points. So obviously we are really interested in protecting your today and your tomorrow. We definitely think that estate planning is one of those ways that you can really set yourself up for success. And so we appreciate you listening, and we will see you next time.